Hello and thanks for joining us this morning on Vanguard Live. I am Rolake Ademiju. Let's get straight into the top stories of the daily, starting with Vanguard. The major headline says Visa War. Federal government explains stance as US slams tighter measures. Says a 5-year non-immigrant multiple entry visa for US citizens still in place. 90-day single entry visa validity periods apply to only newly introduced e-visas. US introduces fresh $250 visa integrity fee for tourists, students, and workers. You can find our story on the page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. 2027, ADC will dislodge Tinubu, APC, says Aregbesola. Vows not to sideline state chairman, Utomi backs coalition. Again, others kill 4 policemen, NSCDC officers in Benue ambush. You can find the story on page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. And on page 8 it says, if not for Tinubu, Buhari wouldn't have won APC primary presidency. Senate sacks Natasha Oduawan as committee chairman. Federal government to borrow 1.76 trillion naira through treasury bill sales in quarter 3 of 2025. You can find the story on the page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. Shetima to APC, PDP, ADC, NNPP, we are all one. Tinubu's reforms boosting economic recovery, that's coming from federal government. And lastly, on the Vanguard newspaper, Okpebholo declares new era for Edo as Supreme Court affirms mandate. You can find our story on page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper. The Guardian is leading with elderly care. Imagine boom in home services, costly substitute for ailing hospitals. You can find the story on page 4 and 5. Security operative killed, others missing in fresh Benue attack. ECOWAS court rejects bid to overturn $10,000 judgment against Nigeria. Lagos local government polls, APC, opposition, parties bicker over exercise. You can find the story on page 28 of the Guardian newspaper. And lastly, here it says 210 trillion naira probe. Senate berates NNPCL boss for defiance issues ultimatum. You can find the story on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Away from the Guardian, the Punch is leading with autonomy standoff. Governors get 4.5 trillion naira local government funds 1 year after Supreme Court ruling. Local governments yet to open CBN account. Labour blames governor AGF for delay. Falana San accused governors federal government. You can find the story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. 3-year-old boy dies inside Lagos soakaway. Local government poll. Ballot snatching will trigger by-election, LISEC warns. You can find the story on page 6 of the Punch newspaper. Nigeria rejected US push to accept Venezuela deportee, says Tuga. Buhari government went after my allies post 2015 election, says Jonathan. You can find the story on page 9 of the Punch newspaper. And lastly, on the Punch newspaper, corrupt politicians using crypto wallets to launder money, says EFCC chair. You can find that story on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. And lastly, the Nation is leading with visa restriction. Federal government rejects United States claim on reciprocity. President didn't stop 5-year visa for Americans. Nigeria won't accept Venezuela criminal deportees. Shetima visits Eileen Buhari Abdulsalam in London. You can find the story on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. I'm not in for a race for APC chair, says Akume. Senate removes Natasha as committee on diaspora chair. You can find the story on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. And lastly, here it says UBA announces strategic expansion into key markets across Africa. And that's all we have for the headlines of the dailies. Join us after the short break for a brief analysis of some of the stories. Welcome back if you are just joining us. This is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I am Rolake Ademiju. Let's dive into our first story. The federal government yesterday denied stopping the insurance of the 5-year non-immigrant multiple entry visa for United States of American citizens, a policy the US cited as a reason for the latest visa restrictions against Nigerians. This came as the US continued its tight immigration policies with the introduction of a new $250 visa integrity fee targeting mostly non-immigrant visa applicants, including students, tourists, and workers' visas. It should be recalled that recently, several countries including the US, the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United Arab Emirates have introduced stricter visa restrictions against Nigerians as part of their immigration crackdown and growing protectionism among the world's superpowers. Countries that have so far restricted foreign travels for Nigerians have cited concern around national security, economic concerns, and public health issues. Just 3 days ago, the US released a new visa policy reducing non-immigrant and non-diplomatic visa duration for Nigerians to 3 months with single entry permitted, faulting the US claims of reciprocity as the reason for its current visa policy towards Nigeria. The presidency said that the claim does not accurately reflect the actual situation. In a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, the presidency expressed readiness to continue to engage with the US to address the unfavorable restrictions in a just and fair manner. He said, immediately after assuming office, President Tinubu's administration issued a service-wide directive that Nigeria implements all bilateral agreements with other nations and adhere to the principles of reciprocity in diplomatic relations. We want to reiterate that the US government's claim of reciprocity as the reason for its current visa policy toward Nigeria does not accurately reflect the actual situation. The Nigerian government has not deviated from granting US citizens a 5-year multiple entry non-immigrant visa, just as the US has continued to grant the same to Nigerians. The 90-day single entry visa validity period only applies to the newly introduced e-visa, a short-term visa category for tourists and business people who may not wish to undergo the standard visa application process and wait. The e-visa replaces the now obsolete visa on arrival, which was inefficient and often used as a means of extortion. The e-visa is a fast online process that does not require the applicant to go to the embassy. Applicants receive the e-visa within 24 hours of submitting their application. The e-visa policy aligns with President Tinubu's efforts to boost investment, trade, and tourism in the country, as well as to promote the ease of doing business for non-nationals. Moreover, e-visas are a widely adopted global policy in dozens of countries. Now let's move to our second story. A 3-year-old boy, Chibuke Uba, has lost his life after falling into an open soakaway at Babarisa in the Ibejuleki area of Lagos State. It was learned that the incident occurred on Wednesday when the boy's mother, Utoro, visited her aunt in the community. It was gathered that Utoro, who resided in Ekpe area of the state, was packing her belongings and preparing to leave when her son left her in the room to meet her aunt, who stepped out to make a phone call. However, when her aunt returned, Uba asked about the child's whereabouts, only to realize he was nowhere to be found. In a frantic search, Uba spotted her son's slippers near the open soakaway on the next compound and raised the alarm. Utoru, who had since remained inconsolable, said, I visited my aunt and was packing my bag to head back home when she received a call and my son followed her outside. I continued packing, assuming he was still with her. When she came back inside, I asked about my son's whereabouts and she claimed he had returned inside. I said no and quickly rushed outside to search for him but couldn't find him. That was when I noticed his slippers near the sockaway on the next compound beside the house because he had no fence. I immediately shouted that my baby was inside the sockaway. That was how we quickly made efforts to pull him out and rushed him to the hospital. The bereaved mother said Chibuike was rushed to a nearby hospital at the Sapati area of the community and later referred to the general hospital at Akodo. She said he was placed on oxygen but was later confirmed dead by doctors on duty. Utoru had blamed the landlord for the incident, alleging that her aunt had repeatedly warned him to close the soakaway but he failed to do so. My aunt called the man and said she had repeatedly warned him to close the soakaway, but he kept promising to. Even the plank that my aunt used to cover it was damaged by the flood. As I speak to you, the soakaway is still open. effort to verify this claim and to get the contact details of the said landlord proved abortive. However, a human rights advocate and founder, Harmony Advocacy Network, Harmony Tashi, said on Thursday that the landlord does not stay in the community. We have been unable to reach the landlord because it does not stay in the area. We are also trying to ensure that the incident is reported at the police station to get justice, she said. And that will be all for today. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms displaying on your screen. And you can also visit our website at www.vanguardngr.com. I am Rola K. Ademiju. Have a lovely weekend.